out of executive session. No votes were taken while we're in executive session. And the next item on our agenda is action on matter heard in executive session. So I would entertain a motion to approve the motion for judgment between R&H Group LLC versus the Town of Woodbridge, which is before you.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? This involves a stipulation for an agreement in regard to the assessed value of property located at 4 Reach Stars Drive in Woodbridge.
And this is the settlement of a claim that was brought by the owner of that property.
An appeal from the assessment?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, any discussion? If not, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is the Country Club of Woodbridge, and Jason Bedford, the general manager, is here, along with Deke Hotchkiss, the chair of the Country Club of Woodbridge Commission. And we do have a handout tonight, I believe, right?
Yes,
Everyone's got that?
handed it out to you.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Good, good, good.
So we've got a couple items in the packet here. The first is kind of a summary of the 2012 golf season, who our customers were, rounds of golf, that sort of thing. Some 2012 membership activity, and then 2012, some of the major course improvements that we made this year. After that, I've got a breakdown of 2013 membership promotion and kind of just some other odds and ends that we're working on just to keep you informed of what's going on at the club. So it appears that we're going to come in at about 24,500 rounds of golf for 2012 calendar year to date. That's important to note. Certainly short of our 28,000 goal, but all in all, very happy about that. 24,500 in our first year with a little bit of a tardy start is very good. We saw about 4,300 customers come through the doors, which is fantastic. And this is on the golf side, which is fantastic. We sold 114 golf memberships, 75 of those being 7-day, 5-day, or twilight variety. 39 of those are junior memberships. 218 Advantage cards sold, which, if you remember, that's a $30 card that you can purchase that gets you 15% off your greens fees. That means we have 218 loyal customers. We have more than that, but 218 folks that purchase the Advantage card and they're coming back regularly to the facility. And then we had 321 resident cards issued, which is a great number. We'd certainly like to increase both Advantage cards and resident cards next year to get some more loyal play from a daily fee side.
The cost of those again?
The Advantage card is $29 for the season. Gets you 15% off. The resident card is free to all residents. That's all they have to do. If you're a resident, all you have to do is show an ID with the license and we will issue you a resident card. We also had made the decision that any person who was a member in 2008, 2009 as the club went bankrupt, any of those folks we also issued a resident card to. There wasn't a lot, but we did do that as well. So that's kind of where we stand from a broader spectrum. Just a brief synopsis. Billy Casper Golf has a very distinct advantage over a lot of other management companies, and certainly over courses that don't have a management company in their marketing plans and their certain things that they track. They have a distinct advantage over them. So in the interest of public disclosure, we wanted to let you know who's playing the course without going into so much detail that kind of gives away some of our advantages. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. But to talk about who's playing our facility, about 60% of our customers we can contact, either mail or email. It's getting very difficult to get an email address out of people these days because they get so many, bombarded with so many things. So You get turned down a lot, it seems like, at the counter, but we continue to ask everybody for their email address. About 15% of these rounds of people we can contact come from Woodbridge residents, and then about 26% come from golfers or residents within a 10-mile radius. So a major percentage of our business, daily fee, is coming from Woodbridge or the immediate area, which is about what you would expect. This next bullet here, frequency of use, is a very interesting one. What you'll see is that 17% of our customers played one time, 25% 2 to 5, so on and so forth. That 17% number is comprised of about 2,400 golfers. So we had 2,400 people come out, try us once, and they didn't come back. You're always going to have a significant number there as a daily fee facility. Obviously, the goal being, let's move those golfers into the next category, into the 2 to 5. But what's most important about this, in speaking with our marketing team, is that you want to have a significant difference between the one and dones and the 2 to 5 times. If we were, say, at 20% or 15% in the 2 to 5 category, we'd have a problem. But they are very encouraged by these percentages. The only thing that they wanted us to do a little bit better, the biggest area we have to focus on, is the rest of the bullet points outside of that 2 to 5, we want to be pretty even. And you'll notice that the over 80 time player is down at 7%. So over time, we're going to work to build that number up, okay? And then we separate our marketing efforts based on these segments. If you're a one and done player, we may send you a little bit more couponing, more discounts, that sort of thing. The more you play, the more our marketing efforts turn towards membership, advantage cards, those sorts of things. So, for example, one of my tasks this off season is to take a look at the list of our top players, filter out any members, but then the rest of the players, I'm going to reach out with a personal phone call, thanking them for their business, reminding them of our membership program, and see if we can get them to jump to the next category. So that's one of the areas that I'm going to look to go. And then the last thing on there is patterns of use. Weekend utilization is 36%, weekday is 64%. We'd like to see that number move a little bit higher on weekends because we get more, you get a higher rate. So that'll certainly be a goal next year, is try and even those two numbers up just a little bit. Any questions on that before we go into the membership activity?
At some of the other clubs you run, the 17%, but the people who play once, what's a really good number there?
There isn't a standard number, but the other clubs in the area are about 15%. So it's not. And again, the difference, the important number is the difference between that first bullet and the second bullet, not necessarily what those percentages actually are. I was always amazed at a course at Lyman Orchards when I worked there, at a course that's been around for 40 plus years, how many people came in for the first time that were local. It always amazed me. So you're always going to have those type players, but we're certainly always looking to slide them along. So, looking to the membership activity, I think it's important to note how many Woodbridge residents are using the facility. I have about 75 regular golf members. 61% of those come from right here in Woodbridge. A little higher on the pool, we had 111 memberships sold. 82% came from Woodbridge, and it was about a 50-50 split on the tennis memberships. If you'll remember, though, there was not a difference in price for the tennis on Woodbridge resident versus non-resident. So I think that's very encouraging. It shows that folks from the town are really getting out and supporting the club, and that's incredibly important. And
I think the rounds played by Woodbridge residents would end up being higher than 15% with that many.
With that many members, yeah,
Why is that?
you really would. A lot of a lot of our daily fee play is coming from outside of Woodbridge, and that's still what dominates on the rounds perspective is, daily fee. We do a lot more daily fee rounds than member rounds. I think one of the things, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on in the presentation here, is we are starting to build. You're starting to see it now. A real sense of community down there, especially in conjunction with the pool. I think in the next couple of years, I think you're going to see a lot more Woodbridge residents coming out to the club, even if it's just to have a meal or have a birthday party or something like that. I mean, we're really working to build that sense of community. We've got a lot of good ideas on tap for next year, so I think you'll find that to be true. Moving to the course, we could talk for hours about the golf course and what kind of shape it was in and it is in now, but there's really four main areas that we focused on to improve the golf course. The first one sounds silly. I mean, it's a very broad category, but it's just the general maintenance practices. Your basic chemical and fertilizer program, your basic aeration schedules, your basic mowing schedules, fixing the cart paths, just doing those little things, and then controlling the traffic flow. Just things that have not been done for a number of years at this facility that are not a huge investment. The quality of the turf is so much stronger, so much more healthy now than it was in March. Those benefits are going to just be tremendous next year. A little bit on the more expensive side was the irrigation system. The irrigation system was nearly inoperable when we started. We had to replace numerous heads, decoders. We found shorts in the wire. We had to replace, fix pipe. We always joke that if we couldn't find the superintendent, you just look underground because he was usually in a hole somewhere trying to repair it. Those problems have been 100% resolved. You're going to have maintenance issues going forward and have to replace things, but at this time, the irrigation system is 100% fully operable, working very efficiently, which is fantastic. Drainage system, a lot was mentioned about the drainage system and that how poor shape it was in. And it was in poor shape, and there certainly are still some drainage issues that we're going to have to deal with going forward. But just little things. I mean, we found 8 to 10 drains that have been grown over. You kind of find some of them by luck. You find some of them by knowing what to look for. But just simply opening those drain spots has really made a huge difference. There were some lines that were clogged, or they just didn't have an end to them, and it created problems. Dennis is working every day to fix those. Just yesterday, he was out. There was a drain that was 2 inches above the surface of the grass. It's not going to collect any water that way. So they took the sod out, they regraded it, made it level, put the sod back on. Now we have a functioning drain. Unfortunately, most golfers aren't going to notice that, but it will make their experience better. They won't realize why, but it'll make it better. And like I said, there's still certainly some drainage issues that we're going to face, most notably in the bunkers. But there's certainly areas that we can keep working on as we go that aren't going to require a ton of dollars. And then finally, just improving the aesthetics of the facility, planting flowers, raking the bunkers on a more regular basis, keeping the hedges trimmed, just little things like that go a long way to improve the appearance of the facility and make golfers really appreciate the course. It's really coming. 2013 is going to be a fantastic year on the golf course. It's going to be in great shape. I'm very excited. Any questions on any of that information? I can't stress how important it is to note that the improvements to the course aren't going to cost a lot of money. They haven't cost a lot of money, just general operating expenses that we really feel like are going to make a huge difference. So to talk about where we stand from a 2013 membership drive, 51 golf memberships sold. 10 of those folks have added on pool, and 10 of that number are new golf members. some of our new members, I think, have already got their membership paid for. I think so. They've been out quite a bit playing, so that's good to see. So that's a great number. 23 pool memberships sold, 3 of those adding on tennis. We weren't sure how the pool membership sale was going to go with the season being so far away. We found out, at 111, so we're at, about 20% renewal on that. I'm not concerned about that number at all. The positive vibe from the pool at the end of last year, and after speaking with the majority of these pool members, I feel they're going to come back. So we'll keep working on that number, but I'm very encouraged by it. And then 7 junior golf memberships sold. I'm finding a lot of Christmas gifts for kids on that one, so that's good, and a nice reminder there. And then 9 tennis memberships sold, which is encouraging. All in all, a solid membership drive. We'd certainly like to have more at this point, but we've still got a long way to go before the membership season ends. So I'm encouraged, and I think we're gonna knock it out of the park in the spring. We've got some great marketing ideas and some great things that we're going to be doing. So I'm encouraged. If you have any questions, just jump in. And then finally, to talk a little bit about kind of what I'm doing this off season for marketing and outings. The course is still open. We'll stay open until the snow flies, and if it melts, we'll open back up again. It's $35 during the week, $45 on the weekends, and the pro shop's open about 8 to 5. So come on out if you want to play. Remember, residents still get a 20% discount on those rates, so it's very reasonable. To talk a little bit about what I'm doing from a membership perspective, I've already reached out to over half of the members via phone call. First and foremost, to thank them for their business. Secondly, I'm calling for any feedback they may have. We've got a lot of great feedback, and at our commission meeting on Monday, we'll have some data comprised of what their thoughts were. It's great feedback. Almost 100% of it is positive, and I think it's gone a long way to let the members know that we really do appreciate their business. In referring to our membership renewal numbers, nothing has stood out to me as to maybe why they have not joined yet. Everybody that I have spoken to is still planning on coming back, with the exception of 1 or 2 pool members whose kids have just gotten older and they don't use the facility anymore. So nothing glaringly negative or any reason why they wouldn't come back. So that's important. Still have a few more to go, a few more folks to reach out to, but all in all, making some good headway there. And then we're, in the next 60 to 90 days are very crucial from a marketing standpoint. We are going to comprise data upon data upon data that are going to help us set our greens fee pricing for next year, figure out who to promote to, who to market to, how to market them. Our regional marketing director will be at the meeting on Monday to discuss what that data is and how it's going to go. But we understand that there's a great need to re-image, if you will, our product. There's a negative reputation out there that is inaccurate. It's not correct. The golf course is in much better shape now than it was. So we're going to have to work hard for that, but we've got some great ideas. So you'll see a lot of Woodbridge in the news next year. All of our 2013 junior camp information is already completed. It's on the website. We've got a great program set for next year. We've developed a more comprehensive men's and women's program. We've got a monthly couples night. We are going to do multiple open houses in the spring, both for golf and for pool. And then finally, we've scheduled some Woodbridge days where folks from the community can come out and enjoy the facility at a reasonable cost. Those that maybe don't want to join, and maybe those that don't even want to participate in the 3 sports that we offer, but we maybe convert the driving range into a soccer field or a frisbee field or something like that, so we can get some more participation from the town. So we're really trying to build a sense of community there.
Can I ask you to back up to the
junior camp?
Certainly.
Describe that in some greater detail.
Absolutely. We have something that's very unique. We have the first thing that's important to notice, we have PGA professionals teaching the golf. We have qualified, certified tennis pro Josh Altschuler teaching the tennis, and we have great professionals teaching the swimming program as well. So the first thing that we need to say is the quality of the instruction that the kids are going to get is going to be second to none at our facility. We've got two different programs going. One is a weekly junior camp where the kids are exposed to tennis, golf, and swimming for 50 minutes each. It runs Monday through Friday for 3 weeks. The cost is $300, 20% discount if you're a member. Open to anybody that wants to come, Woodbridge resident, non-Woodbridge resident, member or not. And again, they're going to be exposed to golf, swimming, and tennis. The kids had a blast last year. We had about 20 to 25 participants total. My goal is to at least double that, and I think we will. We've gotten a lot of questions or feedback about making the camps longer, an all-day camp, so that if the parents work, they don't have to watch the kids. It's very difficult to do from a staffing perspective, but what we've done is we've got a second piece of the program, which are these clinics. And so all summer long, we're going to do a golf clinic every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, and a tennis clinic every Monday and Wednesday afternoon, and then swim clinics every Friday afternoon. So based on your ability level, there's going to be something for you if you want to do a camp all morning, have lunch, do some clinics in the afternoon, then we'll have junior tournaments for golf scheduled. We'll have tennis matches scheduled with the kids. So swimming, of course, they can jump in the pool anytime. It's a very comprehensive program. We're going to have a tennis team. We're going to have a swim team. I'm hoping that we have some of our golfers start attending some state events. There's not really a market for a summer golf team, but there's certainly avenues out there. And then I think to tie it all together, what we're really looking for is going to be 6 to 8 teenagers, junior, senior, sophomore, junior, senior in high school, looking to maybe mentor some of these younger kids to help out the instruction. And golf is very difficult for a 6, 7-year-old to play, so we shorten the golf course. We have a mentor go with the kids, and then that way they can get out on the golf course themselves. It's not something that other clubs are usually very open to, because kids tend to slow down the course and that sort of thing. Well, we would pick a slower time. We would pick a weekday. We would shorten the course. We would shorten the number of holes that they play, and it would allow them to get out there and experience the game and get them a lot more excited about the game. So I couldn't be happier about our junior program. We're also going to add a color-coded system, if you will. It's kind of getting complex. I know we've got a lot of information on the website, but a color-coded system based on what ability level you are, so that there's an interest or a drive to improve to the next level, similar to your taekwondo or your karate. You move through the program. What a great way for kids to stay active. What we see in the business a lot is kids come to camp for a week, and then the next camp for a week, and then the next camp for a week, and they forgot what they learned in this one. Well, this is a way to get the kids to come back and keep practicing to try and get better and improve, and we just get more participation out of it that way. So one of the unique things is we have an all-encompassing price. For $550, your child can come to any program that we offer for no additional charge for juniors. They can come to all 3 camps, which is a $900 value. They can come to every single clinic for every sport that we offer, every tournament that they want to enter. So that'll, I think, be a nice thing to keep the kids active and involved. We're really looking to grow that. I think it's so unique. This is every golf instructor, every tennis instructor's dream is Woodbridge, because you can keep the kids busy doing other things, and they can still participate in yours. So it's fantastic. And we're taking signups now, so if you want to lock in your spot, we are taking signups now. To speak to outings, certainly a large portion of the business that we missed out on this year due to just, not having the time. My goal is to get 200 outing contacts this winter. Certainly not going to get all those outings next year, but if you can get to 200, you can probably get several. We've already got a list of about 65 or 70 names who I've already reached out to a majority of, sent proposals to, and now I'm in the follow-up process on that. So again, we're going to be very aggressive to increase our outing rounds for next year. It's a great source of income, and people want to play our golf course, so we've got a lot to offer from that standpoint. That being said, I think that's it. If Deke, I don't know if you have anything you want to add. Oh, I know what I didn't put on here that I wanted to just touch on. Yeah, the tent. The tent was incredibly successful this year. Nothing but positive comments about it. My superintendent was happy because our 9th green is now much healthier than it was due to the removal of some of those trees. It's getting more sunlight. There's not as much competition for water, and the 9th green is much better than it's been in years. So that's important. From a financial perspective, I can't remember off the top of my head what the numbers were, but we're well on our way to a break even on that, and I think by the springtime we will certainly have broken even on the number of events that we've had in the tent. And that's one of the big areas that I'm going to focus on for next year is how do we market that and let people in town know that we're here, we have that opportunity, come host your party, your family reunion. It's just such a great spot. I mean, it's quiet, it's tranquil, the pool is there if you want that, the golf course is there, the driving range if you want that aspect. So that's going to be one of my major focuses. But the tent, it was the right decision to make. It certainly was.
I would just say that if the success of the golf club could be measured by Jason's enthusiasm.
We're all set, right?
We're all set.
We've got an ambitious program for next year. We thank you for all the work you've done this past year and look forward to next year.
Pray for sunny weather. Thanks, folks. Have a happy, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
Next is the Acorn Hill Road Ball Field. Weeds on a warning track, and Adam Parsons is here. This was a matter that came up at our meeting in November.
Yep.
And so I guess we ask you to give us an update on that.
On the warning track.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, I used to spray a weed control on that warning track, and now we don't. So what I do is I use a rototiller on the back of a small John Deere tractor, and it's all about
Wet weather, labor, and getting it done. The weeds are just, in 2 weeks, if you rototill it, they come back in 2 weeks. So I have to continually rototill it, and that's also including the clay out in the ball fields. Like I said, I used to spray it, but now I have to rototill it. It's just, it's tough to keep up with them. We're not getting heavy amounts of rain, we're just getting misty, drizzly rain. And that's what I mentioned about the tennis courts, how much rain we've been getting. It's just misty rain. It's annoying as heck, and weeds love it. So I don't know how much of concern it is to people, but it doesn't seem to be that bad to me. I don't know what you heard about how bad it is, but I mean, there's not weeds that are like this out there. The itty bitty weeds that are, an 1/8 of an inch high.
So you feel you have it under control?
I think so. Yeah. What we need to do is weld a edger, or not even an edger, a piece of steel, so when I turn the corner, the stone dust, which is the warning track, is not thrown out into the grass, and just the mechanics haven't got around to doing it, or if it could be done on our rototiller. I don't know that yet.
That's something you're looking into?
Oh, yeah,
for the spring?
Because it's not just the warning track, it's the clay that's my concern, because as you're edging the outfield of the clay, you're throwing the clay on the grass, and it's like, oh, you don't want to do that. So you got to have a piece of steel that's this high, so it hits and falls back. Other than that, I don't seem to see why there's that much of a problem when you have a weed.
Dave and Virginia Snyder are here, so I don't know if you have any comments, Dave, or?
Well, I mean, we were here when you hear what this was about, and I think you sent around the packet something that came out with the American Academy of Pediatricians just a week or so ago, really focusing on the pesticide problem, particularly with youth. And I think it was just this morning in the New York Times, Mark Bittman had a column, former Woodbridge resident, picking up on that Pediatricians Academy article, and as well as some other things. And I think it sounds like things are working pretty well, and we just may have to realize that in order not to have pesticides for our children, we might not have the perfect field. It sounds like it's doing okay. I think Adam's doing a great job.
I think we stand ready to be supportive in any way we can. We were talking during the break and during executive session about our farmers using some heavy landscape crop, looking for other options to help, and somehow bolster this whole progress. Because I think it's that important. And we don't have any personal stake in this except the care of kids' health and everyone's water too in the wells.
Just to let you know, that aerator that we purchased through the Capitol, I did aerify all the ball fields. And some of the fields responded incredibly. Acorn did. Center Field did. West River, we don't have irrigation down there. I try not to do much down there. It is what it is down there, and people are happy with it. On another note, my insect control program, where I used to put down merit insecticide, that's gone. So now we purchased a sprayer, and I sprayed that nematode out there. And keep in mind, this year, acorn, the grubs that eat the roots on the turf was insane, because I ran the air fight over it. You can literally take the grass and rip it up like a sheet of carpet. That's how bad they were. And right in the infield, it's like, oh my goodness. It means hundreds of grubs. So I immediately called and got a little flask of nematodes, these live little creatures, put it in the sprayer, sprayed it, and just watered it in, and 3 weeks I couldn't find a grub at all. They completely just dissolved.
No, they're all at my house. Guarantee it.
So on a serious note, that's important, because remember I told you guys about, the bees
Right.
are, coming
Right.
down and sucking the nectar of the clover,
Yeah,
and,
right.
and they're dying, and
Right.
that's it. So right there, that's a good sign of what,
Yeah.
we want in this town.
That's good.
And back to the aerifying, the Acorn Hill ballfield grass, you can't imagine how nice. If you have any idea, go up and look at that grass. It'll just boggle your mind how beautiful it is. It's spectacular. I aerified it, put down organic fertilizer, and it just responded like you can't imagine. And put the nematode control on it, and it's just magnificent. On a bad note, we've been getting so much play at Alleghi in center field this year. It's some of the areas are mud. It's too much. It's too much. So I've asked John Adamовich I'm going to close the fields earlier in the fall and have close them in August at Alleghi so I can overseed. You got to do it, or they'll
It's
be
the
mud.
soccer fields,
Yeah,
right?
they'll be so muddy. The play is just through the roof right now. And you're talking guys are out there, not just little kids, guys that are tearing up the field. It's like a football team. It's every week.
But that has nothing to do with the chemicals, you're saying?
You can't do anything. The only thing you could do is overseed it and close the field. I mean, put up a chain and close it.
You've
Nobody
got
else.
lacrosse too up there.
What's that?
You've got lacrosse up
Oh,
there. too,
yeah.
and that
Lacrosse
does
is
the job.
it's just wicked what they do to the turf. One day, I mean, you could go out there and I could, in front of their goal, I could sod it, I could seed it, I could do everything. They come in the spring, and in one day, it looks like this in front of the goal. It's dirt, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's lacrosse.
Is that because of high water table there? Or is that?
It's because of cleats.
But yeah, they tear up at the end.
Yeah, it's like a goalie in front of a hockey goal in front. He just sits there like this, like this, back and forth with cleats on it, or about this deep. And forget about it. The grass is gone, and I got to look at it. I'm like, oh.
But then it's also in a soccer field, so you've got the same problem in front of the soccer goal, and then you've got the problem a little further out in front of the lacrosse goal, and then you've got
A leggy is a concern and center field is a concern. We've got to close those fields in the third week in November. That's it, or you're not gonna have grass. You can't, you gotta put some, maintenance program in there to rejuvenate the fields. Chemicals, organic fertilizers, nothing is gonna help that. There's just nothing. It's just gonna.
Turf field at the high school helped that.
What's the football field?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know all about that. They want synthetic turf. I mean, they did. But, who knows, but.
Solve a lot of problems.
There are a
It
lot
would, but it's
more
5
groups.
years, I guess.
I was surprised at how many groups were used, that recreation packet that was in our additional materials. How many groups use those fields in our town? It was amazing.
Do you
It
have
is
a copy of
amazing.
that, Adam?
I'm
That
sorry?
recreation packet? The list of all the fields that are being used?
No, I don't need it, 'cause I know. I see it every.
We can see it in writing.
Oh, I know, the next day, you come down, you drive down the center
So
field, I
very
pull in, you can
listening.
see when I'm coming down past the
It's
tennis courts, you
amazing
can
how
see when they
many,
play.
groups use those, all the fields, all over.
Well, if you
Woodbridge.
make it nice, they will come,
Yeah,
that's all there's
yeah,
to it, but they're,
exactly.
it's
And our
getting to a point where
buildings,
there's too
We're
much.
a very busy town.
Even the Acorn Hill ball fields, when I first started here, it was a small little league. Now there's spring, there's summer, and late season
We get a
baseball
lot of
games.
compliments from the teams that come from out of town about the condition of Acorn Hill where
Oh, yeah,
they hold these
absolutely.
tournaments. So
I said I was
thanks to you.
confident to keep them in the same condition. I'm still in the middle, but I saw some good results this year. And the weeds in the outfield, that's,
Okay.
to me, that's not a concern. It shouldn't be, your concern. That's nothing. It really isn't. And I don't think anybody that comes to you and says, oh, we gotta get, chemicals on there, the kids are gonna hurt themselves, it's just not gonna happen.
Okay.
It's just not gonna happen.
Any other questions or comments?
It's good to know.
I would just comment that it is a concern among recreation commissioners. And maybe their standards are a little different because they are focused on these facilities.
Keep
But,
in mind, we said, it's not gonna be Yankee Stadium anymore.
No.
It's just not gonna be.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
and I'm-
Yeah.
I'm-
That's what they're expecting.
Well, but that's what they have, and I think that's.
No, but
part-
they don't, but there's weeds and there's
But-
goose grass and there's
But the
crabgrass. out
reputation
there.
of the fields is a source of great pride for the town and for the recreation
It
department.
is for me, too.
They run state tournaments there.
Oh, I
and
know.
Their concern, obviously, we discussed this before, their concern is losing fields. And
If-
it sounds like with the nematodes, it's working with the grubs. It'd be interesting what happens in the spring when the weeds are really growing like weeds.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that's
You've
my
got to
concern.
stay ahead of that.
And I'm gonna try corn gluten. This is a product that's been out there, and there's some pros and cons, and see
And they
what's-
spend tens of thousands of dollars in clay to keep those fields, to help the town keep those fields up, and to keep them at a high level, to keep them safe for the kids that play on them.
Well, keep in mind, I've met with Tony and Ed to keep them abreast on what's going on. There's not gonna be a point where, oh my goodness gracious, it's a disaster. I mean,
Right.
every year, or every few months, we talk about it, and I'm gonna, forewarn them if anything arises, that it's a concern. And Mr. and Mrs. Snyder, that, these are our options with this problem. With the warning track right now, I don't think it's a concern, personally. We just rototill it a couple more times, a little bit more, and I think this would be sufficient. I'm buying a new plastic cap for the outer fence, because the old one wore out so the kids can see it as they're going back, and the track is stone dust, and the stone dust needs to be rototilled more. And it was just an incredible weedy year. I've never seen anything like it. West River baseball field, field 1. The weeds that grew in that clay it just was insane. I couldn't believe my eyes. It seemed like every week I went down there, the weeds were like healthier than ever. And I was telling my assistant, get the rototiller, get the tractor, come down here and rototill it. He's like, again? I'm like, yeah, again. And that's just gonna be part of our routine.
Yeah, because you're not killing them, you're just turning them over.
Exactly. We're actually creating organic matter for the clay.
Right.
That's gonna get to a point
Kind
where.
of encouraging.
Yeah, it's, so, like I said, I'm going to be, discussing this, in the future all the time. And if I see something that, or anybody sees something, please notify,
No,
somebody.
I'm sure you will. I mean, it's also a great source of pride for you, because you maintain the field.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You do a great job on those fields. I just don't want to see us lose them. That's all.
No, I hope not, like, it doesn't, Lawrence, I don't want you to be concerned that much. I mean,
Well, I haven't been out to see it.
Yeah.
I'm just echoing what I hear at the Recreation Commission meetings. That's all.
Yeah, I'll keep you guys abreast on what's going on for sure. 'Cause, you know, I don't want to see it. I want to see the best field possible. You know, it's pride.
Well, I think that's what we all.
Yeah, and kids walk on that field, they're blown away. And they're like walking on the Yankee Stadium, it's like, holy smokes, you know? It's magnificent, so I want to keep it that way. All right?
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, it's now 7 o'clock. We're open for public comment. And I don't see anyone here for public comment, so we'll move on the agenda to the finance director's report.
Okay.
About the public hearing.
Public hearings at 7:30.
Oh,
Oops.
okay.
My glasses on.
Thank you. I followed you.
So I look forward to it. Okay, so the first item is the monthly report.
Okay. Our monthly report through November 2012 is a surplus of $68,000. Some highlights for you. The intergovernmental revenue has not changed. There's that $60,000 distribution from the revenue sharing grant, which is a surplus for us. We've seen some positive activity in town clerk fees, conveyance fees, zoning permits, and building permits, trending slightly ahead of last year, slightly ahead of budget. So I projected a slight surplus of those collectively of about $52,000. In that department revenue line is also the golf revenues, which are still trending to be shortfall of about $70,000. So there's a slight, then therefore, shortfall in the department revenue line of about $18,000. Not all that much. So it's pretty close to budget there. And expenditures, we've got the final figure on the workers' compensation. That's a deficit of $58,114 in that line this year. So we will keep an eye on that. And
That's due to the heart hypertension.
due to heart,
claim.
correct, yeah, due to heart hypertension claims, as we discussed previously. So that'll either have to come from the contingency department, so we'll sort of keep an eye on that and be aware of that when we, have contingency transfers. And, or if there's any opportunities within the police department, within the salary line where some of these are activities generated from, we can possibly try that also. So we sort of have to see how that goes. And there's a surplus in the amity budget we had discussed earlier of $85,000. Lastly, Hurricane Sandy, I wanted to just bring you up to date on that. We incurred a lot of expenditures here in the town for supplies, contracted services, overtime, reimbursing folks for perhaps funds that they've spent or whatever. And we've paid that out. As we get the invoices or requests in, we pay out these expenditures. Then what we'll do is apply for reimbursement of those expenditures through FEMA. And we have a meeting coming up tomorrow, right? Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, a representative from FEMA will be here to meet with us and to.
So we'll meet tomorrow and find out all the particulars about how exactly to apply, if it's any changes from the last time we met on Irene. That was 75% of those costs were then reimbursed to the town. And that also includes vehicle use. So even though you don't have necessarily a direct expenditure of a vehicle, you get reimbursed for the wear and tear on the vehicle because you incur some, usage of the vehicle for the storm.
Is that all kinds of vehicles, including fire apparatus?
Correct, fire apparatus,
Okay.
public works, police cars. There's a pretty involved calculation of time spent, who the operator was, what days it was, all that sort of thing. So that's why you don't necessarily directly spend all of the money you reimburse because of the vehicles is a large part of it. There's also getting reimbursed for volunteer
I was
time.
just gonna ask you, that was my next question,
Yeah.
about volunteer hours.
Correct.
Certainly.
Volunteer hours are also reimbursed at a
That's good.
standard rate. And one of the big items aside from overtime and of direct expenditures is debris removal, which any of you who've been around the last week or so have heard it in the back. or saw the pile. I don't know if any of you have seen the pile of debris we had back there. It was pretty big.
A lot of debris has been picked up all around the town, looks very good, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact. They've completed that pickup.
They have, yep. And so that's where we are with the hurricane.
Okay, any questions?
Ready for the next one?
Yeah, we're getting pretty efficient at it.
I'll hit it. Yeah, please.
Okay, next item are tax refunds. And we have, in your packet, a memo from Pat Crisco. We have real estate refunds totaling $1,981, and motor vehicle refunds totaling $1,855.56. So I'd entertain a motion to approve those refunds.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next are funding requests.
We do not have any.
We do not have any.
Nope.
So that's
I
good.
didn't see him.
Yeah, no.
See if you're paying attention. Okay, all right. Next is award of bid, road salt.
We got to bid for road salt, and we received 3 bids: Eastern Salt, Cargill, and International Salt. And as you can see by the results, they're pretty close. And Eastern Salt was the winner. We have used them in the past. It tends to rotate between Eastern Salt and International. And so the recommendation is for Eastern Salt for $63.32 per ton. We typically get 500 tons approximately in an average year.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to award the bid to Eastern Salt, as set forth in a memo from Tony dated December 6, 2012.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the natural gas bid. Authorize the first selectman and finance director to act.
We, the consortium consisting of Orange, Amity, Woodbridge, those 3 groups, went out to RFQ for a vendor to assist in with the town in the group in purchasing natural gas. And the group voted to select Titan Energy. And so now Titan Energy, which happens to be also our consultant for electricity, will assist in procurement of natural gas for next year, as it's too late in the season to procure for this year. And we're certainly converting over anyway. But this will be for next year, similarly to like we do with oil. We buy, we'll procure it for the following year. And as with other commodities and other energy, like electricity, typically it's subject to the market, and we have to award it the day we bid it. So we don't have the opportunity to wait a week and a half. As the market fluctuates, the prices will change. So as we've done with electricity and oil and some of our other commodities, the request is to have the first selectman and finance director award the bid. So it's to.
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
to that
Yes,
effect?
it would
I'll
be
make
to-
that- I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, a response to questions from our November 14, 2012 meeting. And there's a memo in the packet there answering some of those questions.
This is for your review. I don't know if you want to go through any of them, or.
Why the whistleblower protection law
Yeah,
was
no, it's
on?
okay with that. I raised those questions.
Okay.
It's fine with that.
Okay,
And there's a map in there of the wells.
This is the well,
yeah.
That's it, right?
it's circled, okay.
Right. So,
There
Okay.
are 2 of them right next to each other,
Thanks,
right?
I know, thanks for putting that on there. Thanks.
Yeah, they were all my questions.
Yep.
Do we have any other?
I do not.
I just wanted to ask you, I asked you before the meeting about the, how many RFQ
Oh, sure.
responses you got for
Certainly.
Public Works.
We received
Set
about
that up.
18
Isn't that amazing?
or 19, I think it was 18 responses for the pre-qualification bid. And after speaking with both Terry and the architect, they seemed very impressed with the quality of the responses and the types of firms that are responding.
Some well-known firms.
Very well-known firms.
That's great,
So we're very encouraged by that.
except that you have to go through.
So we have to go
them all.
through them all and to see if they're right. That's the,
I heard
but
part.
yeah, the hard part. But they, maybe they're all pre-qualified, maybe, we'll find out how many of them are, but that's a very encouraging sign.
And the next
Thanks.
item then that's it?
That's it, yeah.
Next item on our agenda is the town council's report. Amendment to agreement with Billy Casper Golf. And there's a handout here tonight. You all have that?
As you all probably know, the agreement with Billy Casper Golf provided for Casper advancing some funds to the town in order to alleviate cash flow issues, as well as refraining from collecting its monthly base management fee. In both instances, that occurred this past year, and Casper has requested an amendment to paragraph 5 of the operating agreement, which in effect change, all this does is it indicates that anything advanced or not collected by Casper or deferred in terms of his base management fee shall be due and payable no later than June 30th, 2013 in both respects. So the dates to the June 30, 2013 have been inserted in paragraph A and D, where there were no outside time limits before. And that is done in consultation with Casper and their agreement to not get reimbursed and not to collect all of their fees during this past season. And in exchange, they wanted to make sure that there was a date certain by which we would get current with them. So it's June 30th, 2013. And that's it.
So the previous agreement had no time frame
No time
for
frame.
our repayment
Right.
on the line of credit?
Right. It was as soon as practical. Once the golf course revenues exceed the golf course expenses, as you can see in B, that's the way the language read before. And then they added all amounts outstanding under the line of credit shall be paid no later than June 30th, 2013. So it was very loose before this change. And the same thing with A.
Same thing, sorry, Jerry.
Paragraph A said that they would advance their, they would refrain from collecting their management fee until there was sufficient working capital available to cover the current month's operating expenses. And what this does, it says, but in no event later than June 30th, 2013. Prior to this change, they would get repaid once the revenue was available. Now they say that regardless of what the revenue was available, they expect to be paid by June 30th, 2013.
So they feel less confident now than they did when they started?
No, I don't think so, because they could have insisted to get us to pay at least off the line of credit $100,000, and they didn't. They decided that they had enough confidence to continue that until next year, next season. They didn't have to do that. And I think, on the contrary, my impression in discussing this with Brian from Casper is that they had a lot of confidence, and I think Tony and Ed felt the same way. Definitely. Yeah. They said, we'll wait till next year, and they didn't have to.
It's funny that you're reading, because I read it, and I
Right.
thought, this is great, they have confidence, but a
Exactly.
few rules are a good thing.
Right.
You know, I mean, we still have the flexibility of the use of their money, it looks like.
Interest-free.
Interest-free,
Right.
which is not a bad thing, but rules are good.
We have more flexibility if we don't change the contract and leave it the way it is.
Yeah, but in good faith, they have been pretty fair with us, and it's not an unreasonable, we felt it was not an unreasonable request to agree with them to have this outside time. They could have, as I said, they could have insisted on getting repaid before at the end of this past season, and they've agreed to let it ride another year, which I think is a
Well, to the end of the fiscal year.
Till the end of the fiscal year.
Right. Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the agreement with Billy Casper Golf as outlined by our town council.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
5-1. Okay, the next item is agreement among the town of Woodbridge, Woodbridge Volunteer Fire Association and Prudential regarding annuity program.
And we're gonna wait 1 month.
I think we have to put that off until January. We don't have all the information yet. Next is a report of the ordinance committee. The ordinance committee met at 5 o'clock this afternoon and are recommending to the Board of Selectmen that we hold a public hearing on proposed changes to sections 231-2 and 231-3 of the firearms ordinance.
Well, before we move on, could we ask why we moved beyond the agreement on the annuity issue?
I didn't have enough information to get the agreement done. I'm gonna move it over to January.
The agreement is in effect, it's not, just hasn't been memorialized in writing.
Okay, so there's not an issue with it.
No, there's no issue. It's
No
just-
issue, it's just a
absolutely
question.
not, right.
There's been, so you're waiting additional information from.
I gotta get some
Prudential.
more information from Prudential and from Tony before I finish the agreement, finalize the agreement. But there's no problem, no issue. I haven't even talked to anybody other than, gathering some of the information, and I needed some more information.
Okay, so we're recommending, the ordinance committee is recommending to the Board of Selectmen to schedule a public hearing on proposed changes to sections 231-2 and section 231-3 of the firearms ordinance. And you have in front of you the current language for section 231.2 and the proposed change, and the current language for section 231.3 and the proposed change. And Jerry, do you just want to briefly highlight what those are?
Yeah, last month, we had a couple of individuals, maybe 2 or 3 people coming before us, talking about the ordinance and feeling that it should be significantly modified. Specifically, they felt that there should be hunting on town-owned property, as they indicated that some of the adjoining communities have the ability to hunt on town property, and they were also concerned about the 500 yards standard that we have in section 231.2. They thought that state law required, had a number of 100 yards, and they thought that should be changed. And then they pointed out that there was, 231.2 had a phrase that it says, shall be prima facie evidence of a violation of this section, which they thought was unfair and not really enforceable. We agree. They raised the concern that nowhere in the ordinance, as is in state law, was there any exception to discharging a firearm in self-defense. And this proposal is for the board to consider whether we should amend the ordinance in 2 ways. All this does, it amends the ordinance in 2 ways. It takes out the language regarding the prima facie evidence that the actual possession of a weapon is prima facie evidence of discharging that weapon. That seems to be not a valid legal standard. So we took out we proposed to take out the prima facie language, and we also proposed to acknowledge that a discharge of a firearm in self-defense would not be a violation of the ordinance.
And why did the ordinance committee, why are you recommending that we have a public hearing on this?
Because we're going to amend the ordinance, you have to, when you amend
To make
the
those
ordinance,
changes,
you
we
have
need
to
to
have a public hearing.
Is it an ipso facto endorsement of the changes, but the fact that what are our options here?
Well, you would have the public hearing, and based on, if any information is given at the public hearing, you would then vote. Or if there's nobody at the public hearing, you would then vote. But you can't vote on this until there is a public
I
hearing.
think what Susan is saying, if she votes in favor of holding the public hearing, does that mean she's in favor of the change? in
No,
the
she's in
ordinance?
favor of the
No,
public
I'm
hearing.
gonna vote against the public hearing,
Right.
even having a public hearing.
Right.
Because I don't think we need these changes.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't think we need what?
You might as well just take this piece of paper right here and write slippery slope on it.
Oh,
As far
yeah.
as I'm concerned, to me, this is serving the interests of a very small niche community, I'm not gonna support it.
And that's a valid
So,
concern.
right.
This is just presented for discussion and see if you want to do it.
So who brought this forward?
The third
Howard
gentleman,
Loomis,
Howard
Mr. Acampora, and there was another gentleman who appeared at our meeting in November.
Osterfeld. No, not Osterfeld.
It's in the minutes of our meeting.
They had other,
Other concerns,
items
yes.
that we chose not to even consider.
Okay.
I'm
I mean,
I'm just
whatever.
putting that out
Okay,
there.
sorry.
It's a valid point. Again, this is in response to some of the less, I don't want to say severe, the more complicated changes they wanted. This is sort of the minimum, and we thought that it would be good for the board to talk about it. whether
So
you
is the
want-
prima facie language, is that different than the state? Or is
That is different than the state. Yeah, I don't think there's any.
All that language does is confuse things. It
Yeah.
doesn't add anything to it.
Right, so that's not part of the state statute?
No, no.
And it's proposed to be deleted from
Our
the
ordinance.
ordinance.
Ours, right, yeah, I understand that.
The example given was, a person that has a legal permit to carry, if he goes to the dump
Mhm.
to dump his garbage, the prima facie says he's in violation. It's the same as discharging
Discharging the weapon. right.
the way our ordinance is written.
You can go to the dump with a gun if you have a permit.
No, this is saying that if you discharge a weapon and then you're found to have a weapon, then they're basically saying if you have a weapon, then that's evidence of actually discharging the weapon.
Yes.
Which doesn't
Right.
seem to make sense, but.
It doesn't make sense.
So you can carry it to the landfill if you want, and if you don't discharge it, you're not gonna be, but if a weapon is discharged and you happen to have a weapon, then,
Well, now you can't carry it to the landfill because it's equal to discharging.
That's what I understood,
Right.
we talked at the.
carrying it is equal to
committee.
discharging it?
According to this ordinance.
That's what it could be,
The way it
yes,
was.
that's
It
the
could be
prima facie,
interpreted
right.
that
Right.
way.
That's why
So
it's
that's
a
why
little
we're trying to
offensive.
make this change.
But the point of this is we can have a public hearing on it, and then we can discuss all of these proposed amendments. You can vote either in favor of them or against them or whatever. But to get it on the table, this is how we have to do it, on the floor. So I would entertain a motion then to schedule a public hearing for January 9th, 2013, on proposed changes to sections 231-2 and 3 of the firearm ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Susan because this came up, how many years ago? And there were a lot of people. I don't think, I'd be surprised if nobody shows up. I think there are going to be a lot of people that show up. But again, I think in deference to you, we should probably have the hearing. Maybe what happens last time is we don't do anything.
It's always a possibility.
Well, this comes before you because it was raised by 3 gentlemen who came and had concern about the ordinance. We looked at the ordinance and we thought that if there was going to be any change, any suggested change, this is the least significant of those changes. And there really basically is a problem with the ordinance. No one, I can't imagine this ever coming up in an issue. I can't imagine if there is a discharge that we try and force the ordinance on people. There's state law, there's the police, there's the state police who will take action. Again, it's in our ordinances, it's there if we ever need it. I don't ever see us enforcing this ordinance. There are other law enforcement agencies that'll be involved
Then why
and take
change
care
it?
of it. Well, that's
the
the issue,
question.
that's the issue.
And the other issue that was raised is whether the prohibition of hunting on town-owned property should be removed. And the consensus of the ordinance committee was no.
Right.
We shouldn't change that. We should continue the prohibition of hunting on town-owned property.
And there was also a suggestion to change the 500 yards to 100 yards, and we also thought that was.
500 feet.
Well, that was
500 feet,
that was-
500 feet, yes.
That was,
That 500-yard
that's state, I think.
prohibition
No, it's
was
less in the state.
adopted at an annual town meeting in 1960. So if somebody wants to change that, they should, it would seem to me they should go at the annual town meeting or for a special town meeting to have that discussed. So that's our report, and there's a motion on the floor to schedule a public hearing. So, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-1, thank you. All right, next are minutes, and we have the minutes of our regular meeting on November 14, 2012. And I entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Any discussion?
One typo, Jerry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, that's
On page 11, the second to last paragraph on the page, no pesticide policy, I'm sure.
Oh, police.
There are no pesticide police.
Some may.
I thought that's what we
Not
were.
yet.
Yeah,
Not
yet.
that's what you guys are.
That's what I thought we were. Now, I like that job.
Thank you, I'll make that correction.
I'm gonna change it to posse.
Okay, so, any other comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the town clerk's report. And I entertain a motion to approve the town clerk's report in your packet.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And next is approval of the Board of Selectmen meetings for the year 2013. If you're in your packet there, I don't know if you had, everyone's had a chance to look at these. I would make one recommendation that we change the March 13, 2013 meeting to March 6th. And we don't have to act on this tonight, do we, Jerry, or?
Yes,
We do,
this
okay.
has to be filed with the town clerk. Well, no, we don't. We can let it go to January.
So does anyone have any problem with that?
I looked at them all, I think they're all fine.
To do what? Change the.
March 13 to March 6th.
Well, if you do that, I'll be there. I won't be there if it's March 13th.
That's why I was changing it. I wouldn't be there either.
There you go.
Okay,
All right.
What's the secret?
What is, yeah, where are you guys
Oh,
going?
Ed, the secret's out.
Where are you
Yeah,
going?
right.
Whoa.
I tell you, they're gonna have to kill you, so.
That's right.
Am I gonna be here on March 13th?
Well, not according to this.
Not according to this.
You won't be there. Okay. So with that change, can we approve the Board of Selectmen meetings?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I may not be able to make the 9th, but that's fine, don't change it for me.
Okay. I'll second it. Okay. As amended.
Mhm.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Where
Okay.
you gonna be?
We're in New York that week.
I see Mr. Ginsburg has arrived, but I don't think you can do it in 2 minutes. So, we have some resignations. As you see, Diane Urbano from the Economic Development Committee and Janice Hirschman from the Recreation Commission. Janice and her husband Peter have moved out of Woodbridge to Branford.
So they've actually moved out of town.
They have.
Wow.
And so we'll send the appropriate letters. Well, I entertain a motion to accept these resignations.
So moved,
Second.
with regret.
yes.
Right. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, we have some appointments here. Economic Development Committee to June 30, 2013. Recreation Commission to June 30, 2013. Quinnipiac Valley Health District Board of Directors alternate to June 30, 2015. So I give everyone notice of these, And then we have an appointment of a Radio Communications Committee consisting of, and I'm going to nominate the following: Joseph Hellauer to be the chair, Police Chief Gene Marcucci, Deputy Police Chief Raymond Stewart, Fire Chief Sean Rowland, Police Sergeant Edward Thomas, Past Fire Chief Mark Santoro, and Board of Finance member Michael Ewing to serve on that committee, the charge for which is in your handout tonight. And basically is to be responsible for the review of all radio communications and related equipment in use by the police, fire, and Department of Public Works. And their responsibility shall include to review, evaluate, and report on the status of existing radio communications and related equipment currently in use in Woodbridge, recommend replacements, enhancement, or upgrades, recommend to the boards of selectmen and finances funding and timeline for implementation of the project, and finally, to oversee the construction of the facility and installation of equipment on 1990 Litchfield Turnpike adjacent to the AT&T tower. That would be for the repeater tower.
For the repeater tower, right.
So, I have a motion, I entertain a motion to approve that committee. All these members have agreed to serve except Michael Ewing, but we will contact him. And so I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Second.
Any discussion on those appointments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then the charge, as I've summarized it, I'd entertain a motion to approve the charge.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And that gets us to 7:30 for the public hearing. And in accordance with section 4-5B of the Charter of the Town of Woodbridge, and I'll call this public hearing to order to receive comments on a proposed revision to the Town of Woodbridge ordinances, Part 1, Chapter 75, Article 3, Fire Commission, Section 75-22, Duties and Powers, subsection C. The legal notice of this public hearing was published in the New Haven Register on November 29, 2012. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Jerry, you want to read the proposed ordinance?
Pursuant to section 4-5C of the Charter of the Town of Woodbridge, notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing. Oh, wait, I'm going to read the ordinance.
Right. Yeah, we just motioned
just
to not
motioned,
read
yeah,
that.
As you can see, 75-22, it's under duties and powers of the Fire Commission, and we've added a section C. It says annually conduct, the commission, that's the Fire Commission, shall annually conduct a written evaluation of the performance of the Fire Department Marshal. Woodbridge Fire Marshal, said written evaluation to be filed with the Board of Selectmen on or before July 1st of each year.
Oh, here she is.
He's here.
Okay.
And that ordinance was, came about as a result of the recent issue with with our prior fire marshal, and we thought that the first selectman thought that it would be a good idea, and I think we discussed this at the Board of Selectmen meeting, to have a requirement that there's an annual review to be submitted to the Board of Selectmen.
Would it be submitted to the Board of Selectmen or to the Personnel Committee, or how would that work?
It'd be submitted to the clerk of the Board of Selectmen, that'd be Mrs. Shaw. And, be distributed to the Personnel Committee as well as the Board of Selectmen. Okay, are any comments from the public? Not then, have we received any written comments, Jerry?
Not as of 4:30 today.
Okay. Okay, and I'll declare this public hearing closed. And we return to our agenda under Greater New Haven, number 7, Greater New Haven Water Patrol, Water Pollution Control Report. And Jeff Ginsburg, who's been our Woodbridge representative to the Board of Directors for one term, is about to start his second term. So thank you for coming. This was Jeff's idea to come and give us a report. And he's been a very active member, I know, of the Board of Directors. So.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm thankful and also humbled to be here. I want to thank everyone here for doing such a great job for the town members, everybody who are citizens of the town of Woodbridge. You do a great job, probably don't get enough thanks. But I'm also here to tell you what a great job you're doing for the environment. I think that nobody would deny that Connecticut's greatest resource is the Long Island Sound. And I don't think that the Board of Selectmen really realize what a great job we Woodbridge residents and the government of Woodbridge is doing for the state of Connecticut and its natural resources. But I'm honored to be on a board that does a lot for our environment. I never thought that when I was appointed to the Sewer Commission of Woodbridge in 2006, that I would be here in 2012 telling you about things that have changed since then. But things have changed a lot. I think I started on the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority in 2007. I finished the unfinished term of Ed Lieberman, and then I got reappointed twice. And so we've had a lot of continuity at the town of Woodbridge on this board, which is a regional board. And I can tell you that when I was on the Sewer Commission, there was a lot of debate whether we should join this consortium of towns. And there were some on the board that felt that we could continue to manage our sewer system just fine. And there were others who thought that we should take advantage of economies of scale and join this consortium of towns. And I think that you'll come to understand that the town of Woodbridge has fulfilled its mission as a representative of this board. There's a statutory definition of what the board is and what the board does, but I think that the cleanest way of explaining what the board does is we keep the rivers fishable, the oceans clean, the streets sanitary, and the environment protected. Some interesting things that I keep track of that I think is important to realize is that we have 8 miles of sewers here in Woodbridge. We have an average daily flow of 500,000 gallons per day. We have 1 pump station. We have 275 manholes, and the average age of our system is 65 years. And these are very important facts that the town keeps track of, and because of my participation with the Water Pollution Control Authority, the authority keeps track of. And some of the things that we have done on behalf of the multi-town area affecting Woodbridge in particular is we have begun the process of lining all our sewers. And that would have been an incredibly expensive project for us to have undertaken back when we were discussing the need to do so in 2006. And it can be done with much greater facility, on a much greater scale, and at much less cost now, rather than if we had started to fix our infrastructure back then. So I think that it was a great idea in hindsight that we regionalized. And I think that one of the things that we've benefited from is when we did have a sewer overflow a year ago back in the flats, and we had one resident who really had a rough go of it. The regional authority responded very quickly. Within 24 hours, they were there, had fixed the entire problem, cleaned up, and in a very diplomatic way assured the homeowner that everything would be taken care of and paid for. I think the homeowner lost a refrigerator, and the authority paid for it, and the homeowner was very happy and felt very well cared for. Some new things that the Control Authority has done in the last 6 years since I've been associated with it is we've hired a new executive director, Sid Holbrook, who is just a magnificent person and a magnificent director, and has enabled us to meet our requirements, our standards, to the satisfaction of the DEP and the EPA. In addition, we have a new executive office building. That's something that we acquired during my tenure, which moved our offices from the East Shore plant to a really nice building, an executive building in New Haven. We built a new windmill to generate power. We built a new under-the-harbor sewer line with a state-of-the-art sewer line at a very big cost, but a very efficient way of transmitting the combined flows down into the incinerator plant to be processed and cleaned. We've made large improvements to the sludge incinerator. We have a new long-term control plan. Over the next 20 years, we're going to probably spend about $570 million to improve the environment. We do have some new ideas on the horizon. We are considering green power for the plant to make us self-sufficient. And we're talking about having a new microgrid, which would enable us to have our own power, generate power to run the facility, and also have it make money by allowing our power to be sold to various other utilities in the nearby area. We do continue to be concerned about climate change and the storm damage that occurred from recent large events. But we have a very, very efficient staff. The one thing I can tell you is that this control authority really knows how to run a sewer system. And I feel very confident with the management. I am humbled that they asked me to come back because I feel to some extent that some of these people who work are very dedicated people, and I find that when I go to these meetings, I have to be very prepared in order to keep up. There's a lot of reading that goes on. We get a book that's probably about 2 inches thick every single month that we have to go through with contracts and reading about labor problems and new acquisitions and improvements to the sewer system, and talking to our lobbyists about raising funds, working with the state of Connecticut to raise funds through the Clean Water Act, deciding whether or not we're going to get grants from the state or whether we're going to pay interest on money that we obtain. And all this is superimposed upon a very arcane learning about the sewer system and about the engineering of the system and the history of the system, and I find it very interesting and challenging. So I have to, in order to stay on my toes, I got to come prepared. Sometimes I wonder whether they really want me, because I actually read the contracts, and I'm always the one to say, well, are you sure that you want to have this particular language in this particular contract and operate this way? Sometimes I feel like I'm stepping on their toes and getting in the middle of their operations. But for some reason they're tolerating me, and I think I bring something to the table because I think I'm the only lawyer that serves on the board, and I think they appreciate having that person who's looking at it from a legal point of view rather than just an operations point of view. So I think I do bring something to the table that makes up for my lack of engineering. I think it's important that we continue to have someone who at least is associated with the old Woodbridge sewer system on this board. I think it's an important thing. I think it's important for the town to have someone at least has some knowledge of the history and the sequencing and how we got from there to here. So I just want to thank you for reappointing me, and I'll continue to do my job.
Thank you. They would be one to serve, Jeff. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
I have a question. Jeff, is the windmill the one I see off the Cube Ridge?
No, that's actually not the one. There is another one. It's a rather small. It's a smaller windmill, but it's not that one. But there is one.
And where is that?
It's right near the East Shore plant. I don't think it's that.
Okay.
I don't think it's the one that you see as you're driving on the Cube Ridge.
That's privately owned, I think, that windmill.
Right.
Oh, is that right, off the
Yeah.
Cube Ridge? Well, I can see you're flushed with excitement about this, so more power to you.
I would say he knows something, but he knows his stuff. What are the plans, are there any plans in the future to extend sewer lines in communities?
That was a very interesting concern that we had back in the middle 2000s. We were not wanting encroachment from this regionalization, and it has never come up since I've been associated with the WPCA that they want to build more sewers into our town. They have no interest in it whatsoever.
They must be talking to the gas company, that's all I'm saying.
And I don't think there's any danger of them taking over our sewer lines beyond where we have them now, which is mainly in Litchfield Turnpike, Whaley Avenue, Fountain Street, and Amity Road.
your question. You know, you've been reappointed, Jeff, so we thank you. And it was unanimous. So, well, thank you for coming, and keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
See you later,
Okay.
Jeff.
Bye-bye now.
So that gets us now to the first selectman's report. And since we last met on November 19th, I attended and spoke at a press conference in which Governor Malloy and Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, Energy and Environmental Protection, Esty, was present at Amity High School, recognizing the extension of the gas line into the center of Woodbridge and celebrating the fact that Amity is now running on natural gas. There were a number of students present, and Governor Malloy and Commissioner Esty answered a number of questions that they had. And so this is what it was a big event for Woodbridge, and they were publicizing the fact that natural gas is the way to go, and it's part of the governor's overall energy project. And Joe will be talking further about what's happening with the Woodbridge buildings that are on the gas line. And at the suggestion of Susan Jacobs, Susan and I and Joe and Tony are going to have a meeting with representatives of the Southern Connecticut Gas Company in January to find out what their plans are for extension of the line in Woodbridge, and we'll be reporting to you on that hopefully at our January meeting or shortly thereafter.
Bishop Drive.
Get in line, get in line.
Andrews Ridge.
And on November 21st, I met with Tony and Joe Hellauer and Chris Turner of Webster and Simpson of Rocky Hill, who are assisting the town in preparing an application for the second phase of installing a microgrid in Woodbridge, as described by Jeff Ginsburg. So I know they met again today working on that application. As you may remember, UI has chosen Woodbridge and Stratford as sort of pilot projects for this microgrid because of the closeness of all of the office buildings in Woodbridge. And so we're going on the second step with that. And if we get cleared for that, then the question will be whether we would be approved for financing for construction of such a microgrid. So this is a work in progress, so we're continuing to pursue that. We'll see where that takes us. Then on December 5th, I attended a meeting called by John Brady, Dr. John Brady, who's the superintendent of the Amity school system, on the general question of regionalization of the Amity School District from K through 12. There was a representative of the State Board of Education present who reviewed the procedures necessary for regionalization and also talked about cooperation short of regionalization between the Amity School District and either Orange, Bethany, or Woodbridge school districts, such as sharing of a superintendent of schools, sharing of a finance director, and other items such as that. Amity is in the process of doing a study in regard to their anticipated decline in enrollment over the next 10 years and how that would affect the staffing, et cetera. And Amity, through Dr. Brady, has raised the question whether that study should be expanded to include a study of regionalization, the cost of which would be borne by the Amity School District. And at our meeting, the three first selectmen from Bethany, Orange, and Woodbridge were present, as well as the finance directors, the chairs of the Board of Education, the superintendents of the boards of education. And Dr. Brady has asked the three towns to get back to him by February to see if they're interested. Dr. Fleischman was present, as well as Sheila McCrevin from the Woodbridge Board of Education. I've talked to Margaret Hamilton. I think they're going to, our Board of Education, they're going to discuss that at their next meeting to see if they're interested. And if they are interested, and hopefully they will be, then we would, notify Dr. Brady that we'd be interested. I'm sure that Bethany is going to be interested, and I think Orange will be as well. So there's nothing, the study doesn't commit us to do anything, but it will lead to a discussion of the pros and cons of doing that. And so with the question of, budgets and state funding and tax dollars, et cetera, I think that's something we should look into.
Yeah.
So,
Just on that, where would that leave each individual town? Because there was talk of consolidating buildings possibly, having space in certain buildings and
I
consolidating.
think one of the things that Bethany was looking at is, since there's room, I'm told, in the middle school in Bethany, and they there's some crowding in one of their grammar school, that they could move, say, the 6th grade to the middle school. I think that was one of the things they're looking at, and those are all things that can be done. I mean, there's certain legal ramifications of that, but those can be done, and so that this would be a vehicle to explore those.
But this is just at the beginning. I mean, we'd have
That's
to go to
correct.
each town and they'd have to decide.
There are certain things that towns can do individually by agreement,
Right.
without regionalization, and those are more easily done.
If you choose to regionalize, do you have to do all of the things that are included, or is it just you can sort of pick and choose regionalization?
No, I think you would have
Or
to
you
do
have to-
everything for
you have to do it
regionalization.
all, okay.
Short of that, you can have
Individual towns.
individual
Okay,
towns can make
okay.
arrangements with each other or with Amity.
But there are very specific requirements for regionalization.
There are.
You have to meet.
It's a
I
legal
see.
process.
Okay,
Yeah, you can't just regionalize some of it, not others.
that's sort of my question, right?
Yeah.
No.
Interesting.
So, okay, so we'll probably talk about that again in January. And then, just finally, there's a memorial service for Bob Gregg, who died recently, former president of the Woodbridge Land Trust, at 11 a.m. at the Congregational Church in Woodbridge. Saturday, December 15th, yeah. Okay, so now we go to Administrator Officer's report. Joe?
Yes, sir. All good news. Let's do the gas first. We will have gas flowing in the library, in the center building, and in Town Hall, hopefully by December 31st. So that's ahead of time.
Okay.
We've been very fortunate in that the contractor that we had to do the indoor plumbing, which is necessary when you take natural gas into the building, has been above and beyond good, which is wonderful. And a lot of the equipment's in place, and Bob Hauser, who's one of our maintenance people who've been in this endeavor, in this type of work, for a long time before he was hired by the town, is working on it. So that's very good news there. With respect to the microgrid that Ed just mentioned, we, the town, are very active in participating. I've been to a number of meetings. Tony and I went to a meeting at DEP a couple of weeks ago. Michael Stein, who's our UI rep, and I went to a meeting up there also on September 15th. What we're hoping to do is have the same thing that we have here, with what I refer to as the campus. And there's a commonality to it because of the gas, and it would be, in essence, your own power supply system. You'd get either a load cell or some type of thing. It is a highly desirable thing. The governor is very much pushing it. Commissioner Estes of DEP is also pushing it. There are some questions, obviously. We have a report that's due in on January 3rd, which we have a very almost finalized draft ready to go. It's got to be in Hartford or written January the 3rd, and there were 24 questions on it. That went from a 10-question one that we got in on time for the September 28th deadline. There are two things that happen. They give you very short deadlines. It's like doing your thesis in 24 hours. It doesn't work that way, but they kind of do it. But it's working positively, and we seem to be getting, we did get a nod from the governor on that when we were at Amity a couple of weeks ago, so that's good news. And the third thing, for those of you that were either on the Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen a number of years ago when we made the simulcast radio system, you awarded me the chairmanship this evening. Basically, if you recall, we had a contract with Motorola, and the system was a gigantic improvement over the radio system that we had in the early 90s. The feds have shrunken some of the frequency bands, and in order to do that, we have to get some new equipment. And I'm working closely with the aforementioned other members of the thing. This will be an expansion and an improvement of what you all knew as simulcast. So it'll be a much better system. And the one thing that we lost, I hate the term value engineering, but a few years ago on value engineering, I lost the ability to get Public Works on the same high frequency. They're still on low frequency. Public Works is going to be on this one, so it will be. It's not a thing that's going to happen overnight. We still can't take title to the property at 1990 because the total construction has not been finalized, and that's where one of the new repeaters will be going. So it's should be a good thing, but good, all good news.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, did we vote on the matter in public hearing? So I'd entertain a motion now to approve the amendment to the ordinance, the fire commission ordinance, in regard to the annual review of the fire marshal and preparation of a written report and filing with the Board of Selectmen. So I entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Tom?
I didn't get to the meeting on Monday. I'll have a report at the next meeting, but Dr. Brady has announced he's retiring again. He's going to do it this time. He's been a great asset to the community, and I'll have a more further report at the next meeting.
Okay. Great.
So at our last Board of Selectmen meeting, at the same time, there was an inland wetlands meeting. And the main topic at that was the Fire Commission filing the application for the patio. So the only maybe thing that's important about that was it was determined by the map that was brought in by an inspection by Terry Gilbertson that the dumpster was moved, and there's a 10 by 10 pad that was poured that the dumpster's sitting on, and that pad did not get a permit. So the application needs to be amended so that it includes that pad. And as of today, the application was not in yet, so that application can't be considered until it's amended. So the Fire Commission had a biologist who spoke on behalf of the, I guess, say non-impact on wetlands, and the inland wetlands will employ the services of a biologist to determine their opinion, and also an engineer. So, as I understand it, they don't just, it's not just an issue of considering the patio itself. You have to consider the totality of the property. And so the patio, this pad, so that issue is just still pending, but it cannot be decided by wetlands until they get an application that includes a permit now for this 10 by 10 pad. The dumpster, I believe, came from about where the patio was located, and it's next to the shed. Shed was permitted, and so that was inland wetlands. They're meeting next week. And TPZ met on December 3rd. Just nothing major, but there's a committee to work on bicycle improvements in town. Probably that's mainly just marking on streets for the bicyclists, and they are working on a revision for the firearms regulation. So maybe at their next meeting they'll have more on that. So firearms sales, and they continue to work on the town plan and conservation. So that's it for my report.
Thank you. Okay. Lawrence?
Yeah, I'll dovetail from what Greg just said at the Recreation Commission meeting. I guess the most important item to be taken up was the contribution by the Recreation Commission to the town, to the revised town plan of conservation and development. And the commissioners wanted to be sure that Town Hall had a working draft of this. I think it is quite comprehensive, Beth, you're right. It details all the programs that fall under the auspices of the Recreation Department. The biggest, and then it outlines some ambitions they have to expand programming and services for members of the community. The biggest issue going forward, as far as recreation is concerned, is space and facilities. They would like to expand some of their programming, but would need more indoor space. They share the center gym, they share Beecher Road School, they have no real dedicated space identified. And so, in that sense, they're hamstrung in terms of the expansion that they can consider. Perhaps even more critical as far as the commission is concerned, and Adam Parsons touched on it earlier, the competition for field space in Woodbridge. I've been going to those meetings now for a couple of years, and when they go through the field requests, it's an exhaustive process. That they get requests from all these different groups, ranging from the Amity Regional School District to adult soccer leagues, and they have to check the residents of members of these groups to see who's most eligible, I guess you might say. If you have a 50%, if 50% of your membership is Woodbridge residents, then you're on a different list. But the fields are in constant use, and again, Adam touched on it. It isn't sustainable necessarily. I remember one summer they had to they closed the fields entirely for a summer 2 or 3 years ago. In June they chained off the Pease Road fields. Anyway, I guess the upshot of that is they're looking for more flat land for athletic fields going forward. So anyways, that was the biggest deal at the Recreation Commission. And then Dr. Stella touched on the main things at the Woodbridge Board of Education. They've been working toward a proposed operating budget for FY 13-14, and that'll be presented to the Board of Education Monday night. They will also hear the presentation about the proposed renovation, the work of the town building committee, and so that'll be an important meeting on Monday night, the 17th.
Okay. Susan?
Went to the Library Commission this week. A couple things going on. Evidently, in the past, Friends of the Library always had an April appeal for fundraising. They've now doubled up on it, and they're now having a second appeal at the end of the year. This is the second year they've done it, in part because the fundraising has dropped off over the years. So give to your local library, or give to your local Friends of the Library too. The Friends, and in connection with that, you may have seen the signs around town. They're having a seasonal book sale, all the hardcover books, $1 each, $1 a book, which is not a bad deal for gift giving. The Library Commission basically approved the budget that Todd had prepared. He emphasized that the percentage that he's recommending to be spent on books and periodicals is actually going to be less than last year. And the overall increase is mostly made up of contractual obligations. So it's a fairly tight budget. And the commission voted to have them go forward with that. The carpet is a happening thing. That's going to be happening fairly, I guess they have to schedule it. The important thing I think for all of us to know is that the meeting room is easy, it's discreet. They'll close it off for a few days and do the work, but when they do the broadloom installation, which will likely be sometime in February or March, they're actually going to have to close the library for a couple of days. The commission basically is leaving it up to Todd to figure that out and let him make that call. The library online system, of which we are a part, Lion, is upgrading its system, which will benefit our library, but it's at no cost to us, which is a nice thing. And I actually had a question for Joe. Todd reported that they're going to be part of the conversion to gas, but they're only converting 2 out of their 4 burners. They're going to have 2 stay as oil and 2 stay as gas?
For the time being.
For the time being. And is that true of Town Hall? And no, that's all going to be gas?
Yes.
Okay, that's my report.
Good, thank you.
That's my answer.
I mean, I didn't know. He said there was a reason for it, and I didn't know if it applied elsewhere, so.
Okay, Beth?
Yep. November 15th, I attended a meeting of the Woodbridge Old Firehouse Renovations Committee. They're still tweaking some of the changes that are going to be made there, including adding a defibrillator unit, so we continue to remain a heart-safe town. There's some concern about the Bay 1 tension rod, and I don't know if that was looked at, or the thing that holds Bay 1, the wall.
It was looked at the
Oh,
last
okay,
meeting, yeah.
okay, all right.
They're gonna evaluate, I think,
Yeah,
evaluate that.
so we'll have to see, hopefully
Yeah.
they can take it down and board up the sides on Bay 1. And they hope to have about 100% of the construction design done very soon, and then the committee's gonna make a presentation to our board, and then it'll go out to bid. I just don't have timing on that, maybe you guys know more than I do, but,
Not yet.
okay, that's that. Then on November 15th, I went to Fire Commission, and a lot happening there. There was a lot of updates. First of all, Leah Alexiadis, as you saw in the paper, she was elected to, no. He was elected to chairman of the Fire Commission, and they're pending a secretary, I think, because Bruce Mandel has agreed to do it, but he was not present, so they decided to give him the courtesy of coming to the next meeting to actually have the vote. Chris Layden had resigned from the commission as well. She'd moved to Milford. And the commission accepted or welcomed Michael Soufrine to replace her. Aaliyah discussed further information on the fire marshal and how that's all working out. Paul Wedowitz and Rod White are going to be here for 90 days. Fire Marshal Wedowitz is available 1 day a week, and Fire Marshal White fills in as needed. Chief Rowland reported on some of the activities since the last meeting, and there was discussion about who signs the fire marshal timesheets as supervisor, and I guess they were gonna talk to you about that. I don't know if they did yet. Because we now have timesheets that are from these
Correct.
acting
Right.
fire marshals.
Right.
And, okay, so I guess that will be coming to you at some point. Chairman Alexiadis reported the commission had filed their application with inland wetlands, but I guess it needs to be updated. And so it's not clear to me whether or not it's going to be discussed next week, because they haven't updated the application that the pad that Greg just reported on. I don't know. We'll see on that. If you have time, take a look at the minutes from the fire commission meeting. I'm not going to do this tonight, but the stuff that they did during the storm was incredible. It's just, it was a good hour-long report about all the many things that they worked on and how they stepped up. They started planning 2 days before the storm and then just continued for that entire week. And a lot of the gentlemen, and they just took time off from work and helped us. So it was an amazing thing. The chief thanked all the volunteers, and it was just great. Chief did note the importance of having the Make Safe crew from United illuminating in town on Tuesday morning. Certain vehicles are out for service. They're beginning all that testing that they have to do. The good news is Chief Rowland reported Newfield and Scope Construction came and ground down the apparatus bay floor, took up the urethane and epoxy right down to the Aquafin product. That was that moisture mitigation system. The floor epoxy was reapplied and the seam was cut, and they did fix the expansion joint where there was a crack. Trucks were outside for 2 weeks. You may have seen that. And I believe it's working out very well, and so far so good. Everything looks great. So that was really, really good that problem was solved. Let's see, there's some upcoming things. This coming Saturday, Santa and Mrs. Claus are going to be at the firehouse from 12 to 3 to greet children. And then I think it's next Wednesday and Thursday night, Santa and his elves and Mrs. Claus are going out to local families and seniors. We're going to go to the nursing homes again, I guess, which is fun. And they are also hosting a toy drive for Yale New Haven Children's Hospital at the firehouse. Donations can be dropped in the lobby of the firehouse through December 22nd, and it's for the toy closet at Yale New Haven Hospital. And they have to be unwrapped and no stuffed animals. So if you have stuff, just drop it off. Talked again about the Storm Sandy, and And the next meeting is this coming Monday, and I guess we're doing budget, so I don't have anything yet on that. I did attend Human Services on December 3rd, and Mary Ellen reported that they've appointed a budget committee, Mary Lee Barker, Susan Davidson, and Chris Lovejoy, and they're going to be preparing an operating budget for FY14, and that will be discussed on January 7th. 17 Woodbridge households received holiday food baskets this year from the Woodbridge Rotary Club, and Steve Katz of Katz's Deli donated $850 in gift cards for the baskets, which I thought was pretty cool. And Boy Scout Troop 63 collected and donated and helped package the food. And any extra food that they didn't put in the baskets was added to the town's emergency food closet. Apparently there were a lot of staff members who came in and volunteered extra hours during the storms. And Mary Ellen thought that perhaps she'd like to meet with the Personnel Committee to review some kind of compensation and maybe developing a long-term plan going forward so that they don't have to keep coming back to Personnel for that. So I guess that's going to be taken up when you Personnel Committee meets. I don't know when that's going to be, but...
Next Tuesday.
Okay, there you go, okay. And she thanked the volunteer fire department again for all they did to help. There were 90 people at the Senior Center Thanksgiving luncheon, and there's a holiday scheduled, a holiday party, I can't remember when in December, I apologize. She wasn't sure of the date. Nancy Fund reported that the cooking class began on November 6th, and they've got 10 kids in that, and they're trying to get a photography class going. This is for after-school activities up at the middle school, but there wasn't much interest in that one. Youth Services is working on providing a divorce panel, which will be scheduled sometime after the first of the year, and those panelists will include a counselor as well as a financial advisor to help families who are going through this with further information. Youth Evening Program was this past Friday, December 7th at Bethany Town Hall. And Mary Ellen and Nancy attended a recent FEMA training event on how to handle the needs of children during disasters and emergencies. We always think of seniors and those folks who need help in their homes, but kids are sometimes impacted by this too, and I guess there were some children at the center this year, and it was interesting, so they're going to be working on that. And I think that's it.
Good.
Sorry
Okay.
it took so long.
Very good,
These
thank you.
meetings.
Okay, so no meeting of the Board of Selectmen would be complete without having a distinguished budget presentation award.
Yay!
It comes as a surprise that Anthony F. Genovese, Director of Finance and Operation, has been presented with this award. And I have a quote from the press release. The award represents a significant achievement. It reflects a commitment of the town and staff to meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. In order to receive the budget award, the entity has to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. These guidelines are designed to assess how well an entity's budget serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications device. So with that, we again congratulate you, Tony, for this award.
And I think you should take the rest of the day off.
Take an hour off tomorrow.
Or just stay overnight. So, I think, is there anything else for the agenda?
Everyone going
So-
tomorrow night?
So hope to see you tomorrow night.
Christmas party,
Mm-hmm.
holiday.
You should wear your award, or,
Yeah.
Present it again.
Stand up if you had it all hung
And
right
so,
neck.
wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, if we don't see you before that. And so, our next meeting is January 9th.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. So moved.